most incredible day as always. Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys are doing well. Honestly, I felt like it was about time that we sat down and did another one of these videos because I get asked all the time by you guys, how do I get a job at LUSH? What's the best thing to do if you're interested in working there? How do you start? What do you say? And honestly, I love filming these videos because the amount of comments I get saying that all of my tips helped you guys out and actually you then got the job at LUSH, it warms my heart. And I thought, you know what, Melody, let's sit down and let's film an updated version. So in this video, I'm going to be giving you all my personal tips and tricks on how to get a job at LUSH in 2024. Before we begin, I do just want to say, if you guys work for LUSH currently or you've recently had a trial shift or an interview, I would love to know down below if any of this has changed or if you've got any additional tips and tricks. Let us all know down below. Let's help each other out and let's get everybody getting their dream job. So let's dive into the video. I hope you guys enjoy and carry on watching. So tip number one, honestly, I think is probably the most underrated tip because it's something that I didn't even think about until my manager told me when I worked there that she sort of already knew who I was. I thought, that was kind of a good idea, and that is if you are applying to one or two shops specifically, go there, shop there, browse there, go there quite frequently, not too much, but if you're in town, pop in, say hi to the people that work there, just make yourself known. Obviously don't manipulate the situation, but almost make them recognize your face, because then when you go in there with your CV, they're gonna think, they like obviously love LUSH, they're in here all the time, like they obviously have a passion, and it just means that you have that kind of friendly vibe already. Does that make sense? Like this, I think, is just such an underrated thing that I did a lot and I didn't even realize I was doing it, and I think it truly helped. And also then when I worked there and would come in and hand CVs in, I would think like they obviously love LUSH, they're in here all the time, so it is a real big bonus. So that is my top tip, and honestly I think it's one of the most important. So that is tip number one, just go in and visit. Honestly, it just helps. So tip number two is really focusing on that CV and cover letter. Now CV, it is what it says on the tin, isn't it? Like I'm not gonna lie, I haven't wrote a CV out in a very long time. However, I feel like unless it's changed, a CV is quite straightforward. There's not much you can do to a CV to like spruce it up, if you know what I mean. So I would really focus on that cover letter and just make it your own. A lot of the times when I worked there, we would always suggest things like, you know, write a poem, draw a picture. Like I think we even had a rap song at one point. Like it really just shows how creative you are as a person. I mean, I'm not gonna lie, when I wrote a cover letter, I think mine was literally on an A4 piece of paper, but I feel like now you have so much more freedom with doing those sorts of things, and I think being creative is such a, I don't know how to put it into words, but for LUSH, I think having that creative like background is really handy, especially if you're like decorating the windows, things like that. Like you've got to have a creative mind, do you know what I mean? So make your cover letter really fun, and if you've got that kind of skill of drawing or singing or God knows what, I definitely would put it to good use and use that in your cover letter because they will never forget it. So that is a good cover letter sort of tip and trick that I have. Also, continuing on from that, I would really focus on not necessarily how much you love LUSH, but also focus on the ethics, the founders, like things that LUSH have done in the past, like charity wise, that you really enjoyed. It just shows that you're not there just for the products, you also love the founders, you love what they stand for, the charities they work for, and that kind of thing. I think it would really help to have those bits of information in your cover letter, because reading it, it's not just going to be like, I love LUSH because, you know what I mean? Like it's going to be a case of, I stand by what LUSH stand by, blah blah. Does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. Okay, so let's set the scene. You've handed in your CV and your cover letter and you've got an interview. Now, it's going to go one of two ways. You're either going to have a solo interview or you're going to have a group interview. Now, both of which are kind of different, I would say. I mean, personally, I've never had a group interview, but what I do know is that you're all there for the same reason. You're all fighting for this position where, I mean, granted, there might be a few positions available, but you're all kind of fighting for that spot, if that makes sense. So you're going to want to stand out. You want to ask all the questions, you want to answer the questions, you want to get involved, be hands-on. Like LUSH as a company, they really look for people who are, you know, confident in how they speak, very friendly, bubbly, bright, like very open to talking to customers. And that is what you need to think about when you're in these interview situations, because as harsh as it is, they're probably not going to want anybody that's not going to want to speak to people, because that is the main job role, if that makes sense. So I would say be bubbly, bright, be friendly, help help each other out as well. Like if you're willing to help your peers who are in the interview with you, I mean, it really shows that kind of team player, that leadership kind of vibe, and I think it would really, really help. In terms of your solo interview, this one was a bit of a different one because I had a solo interview. So for me, it was more about talking about the ethics, talking about why I love Lush, what products I really loved, you know, what makes me like shop at Lush more so than other places. All that kind of stuff like really, really stands out, and I would definitely do a little bit of research on Lush as a whole as well. I watched a lot of how it's made videos like the night before, so when I was doing my trial shift and stuff like that, I could be like, well, I know that seaweed is in that, and I know that seaweed comes from here, you know what I mean? So it really, really helped. I would just kind of dive into a few pockets of information just so you're not going there and saying the same thing as everybody else. I'm talking a lot with my hands, sorry about that. Anyway, but yeah, basically learn your information, really relay it in the interviews, and honestly, be bubbly, be bright, be happy, which I know you guys are, and you'll smash it. So that is the interview segment, I think. Okay, so you've now had your interview, whether that be a group interview or a solo interview, and you've then been asked back for a trial shift. Now, a trial shift is a bit of a weird one. When I had mine, it was a very, very busy day, so I actually ended up having my trial shift for like 2 to 3 hours or something instead of the hour or so that it's meant to be, and I just kind of carried on. Like, I wasn't clock watching, I was having a really great time, and I think that really helped my case in terms of getting the job because they almost like forgot I was there and I was just having a good old time. So honestly, my tips for that would be don't clock watch, don't worry about the time, just focus on asking customers if they need any help, really be bubbly, be bright, be interactive with customers. I know it is hard because there is obviously this like big stigma about how Lush employees don't let you browse, they jump on you when you get in the door, and it was a thing back in the day where, you know, we would have to speak to customers, like as soon as they came in it would be go, go, go. But now I think they are a little bit more relaxed, and I think that you just need to be a bit more genuine with how you're asking if they want help. Honestly, my biggest tip would be to avoid closed questions. So don't say, can I help you? Do you need help? I would always start a conversation. One of my biggest things that I used to do would be to compliment them, whether that be like on their shoes or if they've got shopping bags. I'd be like, oh my god, like what have you bought in so and so? And I would just try and make that a genuine conversation, but something really not related to Lush at all. And then usually when that conversation died down, they'd say, oh, actually, I'm looking for this, like, can you give me a hand? And it kind of went that way. It was a lot easier to have them encourage that conversation rather than you saying like, oh, do you want any help? And then being like, no. That is where it becomes a wall, and it's very hard to break that barrier with people, I feel. I mean, don't get me wrong, sometimes I go into shops and I just don't want to be spoken to, but I feel like, you know, if you have that genuine conversation, it is more likely that they will kind of talk to you back, if that makes sense. Also, in regards to a trial shift, I would say act like you belong there. Like I say, don't clock watch, but also if you're serving a customer, don't tell them you're on a trial shift. Act like you work there, you've worked there for however long, and you're really, really confident in what you're saying. Obviously, if you have any questions, you can ask like a member of staff or your co-workers, which they would be, but to be honest, I think just giving it your all and kind of really acting like you belong is a very, very important step, because they're looking for somebody who they can slot in to their current work team and then not be any issues, not be any conflicts, and not be any like real work there, if that makes sense. If you're already kind of fitting in, helping out, doing all the right things, you're gonna like absolutely smash it, and I don't see how they wouldn't want to hire you. So just have that confidence and really basically sell yourself is what I'm trying to say. So hopefully if you've had your trial shift and you've absolutely smashed it, that is where you will get that phone call that everybody dreams of, where they've offered you the job. And honestly, if you are contemplating working for Lush, I highly recommend it. If it's your first job, your last job, your current job, I really, really think that it's just such a great place to work. And even if you are, you know, more on that closed kind of quiet side, it is definitely somewhere that would help enhance that and kind of get you out of your shell. It definitely did for me. I found that working there really made me more confident to speak in front of people and be more confident in what I'm saying and everything like that. So if that is something that you're looking for, highly recommend. It's one of my favorite jobs I've ever had, and I can't fault it. It was just amazing. So those are all all of my tips and tricks on how to get a job at LUSH in 2024. I would love to know down below, if you guys are working there at the moment, do you have any alternative tips, or would you change anything that I've said? I would love to know down below. Let me know all the details, and yeah, I would just really appreciate it. If you are going to be applying to LUSH for a job anytime soon, I would love to know, and I would love to know if any of these tips and tricks helped you guys out. But that is everything for today's video. If you guys haven't yet subscribed, please do. I would really appreciate it, and I will see you in my next video. Bye guys!